Hi, stock investors. JJ here. Welcome back. Well, could Nvidia earnings be a new catalyst for an ongoing tech bull market? Another big rally after Nvidia earnings. We're going to get into that today. There's some discussion on it. I'm going to react to it. So let's get into it straight away.
Nvidia, the biggest driver of returns among the Magnificent Seven since the market rout just the other week. But shares are under pressure today, down about 0.6%, though Nvidia is still up over 40% from its August lows, adding over $500 billion to its market cap in just 3 weeks.
It can be pretty volatile. Nvidia count it went down about 28%, I think. Now up 40% from the lows.
To discuss the next big catalyst for the chip giant, we've got Dan Niles. He's the founder and portfolio manager at Niles Investment Management. Dan, it's great to have you on here. So obviously expectations for Nvidia are high heading into the next print, and this comes after their EPS growth was over 400% in the first quarter. Can they beat that again?
Yeah, I think for the quarter, everybody's expecting them to beat revenues and EPS. The real question really comes down to more of the guidance in terms of how it reacts in the near term. I think, though, if you take a step back and you think about it from a longer term perspective, if you think back to the internet build out, and you can start that at the end of '94 when Netscape Navigator showed up, you had Cisco really drive the infrastructure build out for the internet at the time. Cisco never had a down quarter sequentially in 6 years. And the stock was up over 4,000% from the end of '94 to its peak. And revenues were up 15.5 times. If you look.
Okay. So he's comparing it to Cisco positively, which is pretty strange because we all know what happened to Cisco. That what he's talking about there was the dot-com bubble from 1994, 2000. It reached a peak, and Cisco's never got back to its peak again. It went up so much it was a bubble. Is that what he's saying without actually saying the words bubble? Is he saying that this rally, this tech rally in Nvidia is going to be a bubble that goes on for a lot longer? It seems like it.
You look at Nvidia. We're only 6 quarters, not 6 years, into the build out since we heard about this thing called ChatGPT and generative AI. And the revenues are up 4.5 times, not 15.5 times like it was for Cisco. And the stock is up 600%, not 4,000% like it was for Cisco from the end of '94 to its peak. So yeah, the stock may go down after they report because
you could go back with Cisco or with Nvidia. You could go back further than a few quarters. How much has Nvidia gone up over the past years? It's gone up a lot.
Obviously, we've heard about delays in Blackwell. Their 3 biggest customers, Microsoft, Amazon, and Google, all 3 of those stocks went down after they reported results. They all talked about spending a lot of money, maybe more than they needed to in the near term. So the quarter itself, it could be messy, but if you think about it from a long-term perspective, I think we still have several more years to go. I think the revenues will double over the course of the next several years, and I think the stock will as well.
Wow, stock to double over the next several years, and revenues as well for Nvidia. By the way, do you like my new painting there in the background, which has, that's the Nvidia logo in there. I've got a painting, that's my painting, I did that, and that there's a text in there in the painting that has a transcript from S. Watanabe talking about Nvidia, actually. Just a by the by there, new thing in the background.
So Dan, it sounds like you're still, or you would be a buyer here then at these levels.
I'm not a buyer here at these levels. I mean, if you look back at what we were saying, what we said going into this earnings season, we said we thought there would be an issue during earnings with the Magnificent Seven in that you'd have to start rationalizing AI spend because you weren't generating the revenues you needed. And so for us, if you look at the 6 Magnificent Seven stocks that have reported so far, they've been down on average 4% the day after earnings. So with this massive ramp up, you talked about it earlier, right? This will be the 9th day in a row the S&P's up. It's the longest streak since 2004. I wouldn't necessarily be pushing that into an Nvidia print, but I think if you're not worried about what happens the day after, and you're thinking about this over a multi-year period of time, it should be in pretty good shape. But as we've seen, the market's really volatile. And when you've got big companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and Google, where the forward revenue numbers are coming down, not up after they reported, and they're the biggest customers for Nvidia, and an Nvidia chip is late, I wouldn't necessarily be messing around with it for the quarter itself. If you're thinking long term, yes.
Okay, so he's not a buyer here of Nvidia at the current, or I wonder if I'm not sure if he bought earlier on in that big dip, but he seems a bit apprehensive about the upcoming earnings with the delay that's going on and some of the spend as well. So it's going to be interesting in the short term to see what happens with Nvidia earnings.
Yes, you can be a buyer.
By the way, if you're getting value out of this video so far, do remember to smash that like button to help the algorithm to spread it to more people.
Dan, put this in perspective for our viewers, because so many people have talked about the fact that Nvidia could be the next catalyst here for the markets. This is the thing to watch. When you stack up Nvidia's results next week, compare that to what could come out of Jackson Hole here on Friday. What is the bigger catalyst to the market in your view?
Well, I mean, the long term is always made up of a series of short-term events. So I think you first get through Jackson Hole. I don't think it's hard to believe that Jackson Hole will be anything but positive in terms of rhetoric, because these central bankers, remember, 2 weeks ago, you had the Nikkei down, which is the Japanese stock market, 12% in one day. The US stock market was down 3% in a day. And that's not that long ago. So they're going to want to be very calming and soothing and talk about the pace of rate cuts, not whether it will happen. And
that's true. And since he was talking here, I think the jobs numbers have come out revised way down. So then the market did kind of go up based on that, because it's more fuel for rate cuts. I think that's probably the very short term view on it.
Talk about the support that they're giving to markets. And so I think that's going to be positive. And then you obviously on August 28th, you get the Nvidia results, and that specifically is going to focus in on where are we in this AI trade. Because I do think, sometime next year, you're going to go through a period of AI digestion once the Blackwell chips ship, because you've heard different companies saying the risk is underspending right now on AI, not overspending, which tells you that they're spending more than what they think they need, because their forward forecasts for revenues are going down. So at some point, you're going to go through this digestion phase. And for the viewers who don't remember these same customers caused Nvidia to pre-announce negatively in the early part of 2022, because these same customers were going through a digestion phase at that time as well. So this isn't going to be straight up and to the right. I mean, even with Cisco, that stock was down 38% intra-year in 1997 from peak to trough. It was down 37% in 1998, peak to trough. It was up each of those years in full, but you had some horrific drawdowns as you were going through digestion periods or other macro events. And so you should be willing to deal with that in Nvidia and expect that to happen.
Okay.
So what does that mean in terms of
what he's really saying there is there's going to be volatility, ups and downs. He's talking about comparing it again to Cisco there, which, again, I reiterate, it turned into a big bubble and went down and took a long time to recover at all and has never got back to the peak again. Is Nvidia going to be like that? That's what some people are suggesting. What do you think about that? Let me know in the comments where you think that Nvidia will eventually be that. Dan Niles, he didn't mention the bubble there, but it was a bubble. And a lot of these analysts, these positive analysts like Dan Ives as well and Tom Lee really think that it's going to go on for years, this AI trade, as he called it, into a bubble situation. What do you think about that? Let me know. Now I want to tell you about ShareSite. If you don't know about this already, I have partnered with ShareSite to give a special offer for my viewers here. Go to this landing page. There'll be a link in the description to that. There's this video to check out. What is ShareSite? It is a portfolio tracking and reporting tool, a platform that 400,000 investors trust all over the world, including me. I wouldn't recommend anything that I don't use myself. You can actually sign up for free to get some free features there, but the premium, the offer is on the premium there. Go and check that out. And thanks for joining me today. Thanks for your company, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm going to put a link on screen to what YouTube thinks that you should watch next. See you in the next one.